I even saw on Instagram the feminine, it's like the feminist, the actual feminist movement, like Instagram put out a post a few days ago. So funny. And they were making the case of why the word female is sexist and bigoted and should be banned. What's up, guys? Welcome to Let It Be Heard, where we are doers of the word, not hearers only. I'm your host, Jaden.heard, and today we're going to be watching Harry complain about the Republicans. It's going to be hilarious. Let's check it out.
What the Republican Party doesn't understand about Gen Z is we don't like you. You claim you want to appeal to Gen Z, but you call us stupid, you say we're dumb, you say we're indoctrinated. I promise it's a losing strategy. And Gen Z is watching the Republican Party extremely closely as they destroy our environment, take rights away from women, do nothing about kids being shot in schools, and if they think they can give the middle finger to our generation and get away with it, they're sorely mistaken.
Okay, well, I don't think this guy necessarily relates to Gen Z that much because, like, is he like in some like kind of mansion, like ranting about how much the Republicans are like hating on Gen Z or whatever? But like, whatever. Okay, anyway, actually, I disagree. This isn't really like just to Gen Z. This is like to the younger generations. You're seeing the Republican Party. If you look at the newest politicians, the great, huge new faces, like you see people like Madison Cawthorn, you see like Lauren Boebert. You see like some of the younger people starting to get in there, and the GOP is starting to realize that. I'm not quite seeing the messages that Gen Z is stupid. I mean, it is objectively true that Gen Z is the most oppressed generation. They're the most suicidal. They're the most mentally ill generation. I mean, that's just true. I don't see how that's a losing message. But the Republican Party specifically, while I think they have their flaws as well, I don't label myself as a Republican. I'm more of a conservative, right? So if Democrats start voting pro-life and if they start being conservative, I'll vote for a Democrat, right? I mean, I'm not Republican. I'm a Christian, right? I'm a conservative. And so, but as far as the GOP goes, as far as them, like their messages to like the young audience, I think it's fine. It's been what it always has been since the beginning. It's, hey, we believe in traditional values. We believe in America. We want to uphold the values of our country. And naturally, younger people, believe it or not, Harry, believe it or not, younger people don't really like that, no matter what generation you end up being in. I guarantee you the younger generation in the 60s or 70s or 80s or 90s, which, I mean, I know for sure because they were really rebellious back then, just as we are now. They didn't like the messages of conservatism and conserving and traditionalism. Like, no, like younger people just want to like have fun. They want to be creative. They want to express themselves. They want more progress, right? So the progressive message is more attractive to Gen Z. I mean, that's just true. But just like it was when the millennials were younger, just like it was when everybody else was younger, we related more to that message because we wanted change, right? We don't like our parents controlling everything and being conservative and traditional. Like, we don't like that. But as we grow up, hopefully this will happen for you too, Harry. Hopefully you'll mature and realize that the messages from the GOP, most of them, again, I don't identify myself as a Republican because I think they have some L takes. But as far as like people growing up and maturing, you realize a lot about the world that you didn't realize before. And I've started to realize that as well, even though I'm 21 years old. I'm young. I don't claim to have wisdom, but I have a totally different outlook on life now than I did just like 3 years ago when I was 18 or 16, right? There's a reason why the voting age isn't like 16 years old, which is good. It's good. And I think we should like increase it. Like it should be like 21. Like I don't think 18-year-olds should really be voting because I had some wild beliefs back then. But anyway, so yeah, I don't understand that. And then he's talking about like taking away, like we're the party that's running on taking away women's rights and not offering up solutions for mass shootings and kids and stuff like that. Let me speak to those 2 points because I think he's misrepresenting everything. Taking away women's rights is taking away the ability for women to have their own sports. That's the message of the Democrats. Taking away women's rights is allowing people to abort and kill women in the womb. where they should be safe. That's taking away the woman's right to life. Taking away women's rights is saying that you're not a woman unless you agree with our message. So, for example, they'll like I've heard this so many times, y'all. I've heard this so many times. I'm sure you guys have too. But they'll say like to the pro-life women that you're not actually a woman because you don't stand for women's rights or you don't agree with my position. I've heard this many times, like, and they'll wish rape upon them, like the pro-choice side. They'll wish like harm upon them, that they're not real women, that they're not standing up for women, and that's not our side. That's not coming from us. All that the women's rights and the sports, the abortion stuff, that's all coming from y'all, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Redefining what womanhood is quite literally like taking away women's rights. Like, I even saw on Instagram the feminine, it's like the feminist, the actual feminist movement, like Instagram put out a post a few days ago. So funny. And they were making the case of why the word female is sexist and bigoted and should be banned. Can somebody, editor, put it up on the screen, like to show? I'm not kidding. They said the word female needs to stop being used, and they gave the case for it. They gave the case of why, but that's not coming from the GOP. We're not trying to ban the word female. We're not trying to redefine the word woman. We believe that women are women. Women are people who are born that way. You're born with XX chromosomes. You're born with all right. You can birth children. You can menstruate. And God made you that way. That's the message of the GOP. Most of them. Again, some of them, whatever. But so that's one thing. And then you mentioned not protecting little children. Sir, again, we're the pro-life party, bro. Like, we don't believe in deleting babies. We don't believe in that stuff. And then the solutions that you guys offer for school shootings, because this is a hot topic, especially now. The solution that you guys offer is banning all guns. You say, Jaden, we're going to ban all the guns and all the problems are just going to go away. Here's the issue. We're offering actual solutions that actually fix the problem, whether you like it or not. The issue with the school shootings are not guns. They're not guns. Because Americans have owned guns since 1776. I mean, honestly, they were using, like, what were they using? Like muskets, cannons back then? But they didn't have mass shootings, right? Like, they weren't out here shooting each other's, like, schools up and stuff like that. We didn't start doing that until just very recently, how it's been on the uprise. So, we've had automatic weapons, like, illegal before. It's been a long time. We've had these semi-automatic AR rifles, Armalite rifles. They've been free to carry. You've been able to carry these all, like, at all points in history, all right? So why in the 1900s and honestly all the way up until like the 90s and early 2000s did we not see this uprise of mass shootings? Because we've always had these guns. The guns that people use are, the same guns that we've used forever, just a lot better now. And obviously, they're getting more and more advanced and stuff like that, but half the stuff is banned now. We can't carry more than 16 rounds or something like that. Like you can't like have an extension clip. You can't have a certain grip. Like it's weird. I saw a TikTok the other day too, comparing legal weapons to illegal weapons. Is literally the exact same thing, just different grips or whatever, but whatever. And there's a lot of weird stuff about that, corny stuff, but, there's a lot of misinformation about out there about these mass shootings and how the weapons are obtained and stuff like that. But just let's just be clear. You're banning weapons that are legal, but the legal weapons that are being used in the mass shootings don't exist. The mass shootings are with illegal weapons. So that brings you to the real problem with these mass shootings. What is the real problem? Well, if we take into account that these guns have always existed and that we've always legally owned them, but yet the mass shootings were not occurring back then, what changed? The guns didn't change. The guns got better, but the guns do the same thing. One bullet, really, two bullets, really, if you hit them in the right place, you'll kill as many people as you really want to, right? And this brings me to my issue with the mass shootings. There's two problems with the mass shootings. This is the real issue. One is mental health. The mental health in this country has gotten progressively worse and worse. The trans community has like a 60 or 40 something percent, almost 50% suicidal rate. Never before seen in any generation. That includes Holocaust survivors and people in the Holocaust. Their suicide rates were not that high. Slaves, people who have been discriminated against historically in all parts of the world, they haven't had as bad a mental health crisis as that community. And then if you look at Gen Z, like I was just saying earlier, Gen Z is the most depressed, most mentally ill generation ever. And you would think that if evolution is true, we would get less and less and less depressed, and we would get more advanced as a people. We get smarter. We'd be more happier and joyful and fulfilled. But it's the opposite. It's the opposite. So that's the first issue. The people with the guns who have it illegally, by the way, they're not obtaining them legally because there's background checks. There's so many barriers to getting these guns. If you want to check it out for yourself, go to a gun store, any gun store. Go to a pawn shop. Try to buy a weapon without an ID and without getting a background check. It doesn't exist. All that it's all fake. Like, it doesn't happen. They literally run a background check through the FBI for your weapons. I mean, there's so many. And I know so many people that carry, and even the people that own a gun legally, there are still laws as far as carrying. You have to have, if you want to go to a shooting range, you got to get a shooting range license. Like, you have to have a permit to go shoot the gun at the range. Like, there's so many things that we have that prevent people from legally owning and firing and doing whatever with their gun. So I don't want to hear the whole like, oh, these guns are just being handed out to mentally ill people. That's not true. This is all misinformation, and it's all propaganda from the media, right? So that's mental health. That's the mental health stuff, and that's the obtaining it legally or illegally, right? And then the other issue with these mass shootings is the protection of the children. The solution to this problem is not less guns; it's more guns and more protection. Look at the Capitol building at January 6th. Sure, yeah, they got in, but look at all the protection that those politicians had, all those DC police, all the National Guard, like the Capitol security, all those people were armed. Why can't the schools get that same protection? You guys want to protect the politicians, and by you guys, I don't mean Democrats. I'm saying like just people like the government. The government wants to protect the politicians, right? The politicians can't be touched. They got security outside their homes. They got security outside their buildings, their offices. So they're really hard to reach. And that's a government building. So why are public schools not treated the same way, right? Because they're a government building too. They're paid for by the government. So why don't we have security, the same security for these other government buildings that we don't have for our children, the future of our country? We can't protect our children? When I went to high school, we had a couple armed security guards just kind of going around the school, whatever. But I mean, nothing crazy. But I went to that school. It was so easy. You could have just went through our courtyard and just gone crazy, and you would have been touched. Like, there's no way. There needs to be a way to secure our schools, not just take away guns from legal abiding citizens or law abiding citizens. Sorry, I'm black. Sometimes I can't talk right, legal abiding citizens. What does that even? Okay. Anyway, but no. So that's the solution right there. So let me kind of break this down as well. I saw like a post on Facebook like a few weeks ago. It said like it had like two signs next to each other, and it said like which one is more likely a shooter gonna shoot the school up with if he saw the sign. So one sign said gun-free zone. Well, we all know if it's a gun-free zone, then nobody's going to be in there's going to be armed. So a shooter can go in there and just go crazy. He's going to know that he's not going to have to worry about anybody shooting him. But another sign said, warning, teachers may be armed. So imagine that sign being up. Teachers may be armed or whatever. And this is not a gun-free zone. And we will retaliate. Do you really think a school shooter is going to go to that school? Or is he going to go to the gun-free zone school? I think it's obvious. So again, which platform is offering solutions? Actual solutions that actually solve the issue. But that's just protection of the schools. I didn't really offer an issue for a solution for the first issue, which is mental health. Well, the first thing to solve mental health in this country is to recognize it, because mentally ill people are being affirmed in their mental illness. Imagine if we did that with people who got out the military, where Grandpa Riley got out he served in World War II or something, and he thinks that there's a bomb about to explode downstairs. Like, there's a grenade. Oh, grenade, right? What if his like babysitter or like the person that's watching over him said, you know what, Grandpa Riley, you're right. That was a grenade. Good job getting out the way. Is that helping his mental health? Or is that just putting him in a deeper spot where it's just affirming his mental illness, right? That's not the solution. And that's what we're doing with the trans community. That's what we're doing with all these people with mental illness. So what's the solution? Well, reality and truth and love is the solution. It's not loving to lie to someone and affirm them in their own lies. It's not truthful either. You're lying to them. And it's not reality. You're denying reality, which turns into stuff like that. Turns into people being affirmed in their mental illness, getting their hands on illegal weapons, and shooting other people, and especially little children. And it's really sad. It's really sad. I don't speak on it too much. I don't speak on mass shootings. I don't even speak on guns at all that much because I kind of have a hot take on that. But I believe that you should have the right to own your weapon. And anyone who says otherwise doesn't know history. Let's look at history of when people were not allowed to defend themselves. There's an amazing Alex Jones like clip where he's like, Stalin took the guns, Hitler took the guns, Mao Zedong took the guns, and it's really funny. But it is true though. All the governments who took the guns, look what happened. Like mass genocide and control and we know the Democrats want to protect their democracy. Well, you know what the best way to protect our democracy is? Being able to defend our country against tyrannical governments who want to take our freedoms away. But we can't do that if they have all the guns and we're stuck here with a pocket knife, which I wouldn't be surprised if they try to ban that next because they're trying to ban everything else, right? So that's the solution. We need to actually observe and articulate the mental health issues in our country and do that, right? Now, as far as this video goes, we just took out his two main things about the Republican Party or whatever, which I don't know why that's on Republicans. The Democrats, they have no solutions either. They just want to take all the guns and then they're going to pray to whoever they pray to that the solution goes away. It's not how it works. It's not how politics works, but they know that. It's all fairy tale. It's all theater. It's all just a big play, right? And that's really what it is. Both sides are, I mean, let's just be honest. Like, both sides are just as corrupt as the other, right? And it is what it is. But we, as followers of Christ, have an obligation to uphold our own values and put in people who we believe that match up with those values. And whichever side they end up on, hey, it is what it is. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. If you're a Christian, you're conservative, and you hold my values, and you're going to do what you're going to represent your state or your area the way they expect you to, then sure, run for office, and we'll get you in there. But the GOP is not the issue, bro. The country is mentally ill, and it is true. The messaging is true that Gen Z is the most depressed and the most mentally ill and the craziest. I mean, I didn't start seeing people walking around schools with tails identifying as lions until now. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't think they saw that. I didn't see any movies or TV shows about that, growing up or back in the 80s or 70s or 90s. Like, I didn't see that. SpongeBob was coming out around then. And I mean, people used to think, some people wouldn't let their children watch SpongeBob. And I think SpongeBob's epic, right? Like, whatever. But like, now children are sitting here watching what it looks like indoctrination on, like, again, like mentally ill stuff, like the trans stuff, and saying, oh, like, there's more than two genders and all this stuff like that. Again, that's not coming from us, bro. Like, that's not coming from us. We're not the ones like corrupting Gen Z. It seems like the other side is. And again, I don't like to play the Democrat Republican side. But it is objectively true that like the GOP, they're not really, their messages isn't necessarily harming Gen Z. It's actually the truth. And I'll make this hot take too. Even if you're right that the GOP messaging is turning away Gen Z, if the message is true, I don't care who it turns away. I would rather be the only person and everyone hates me still telling the truth. And if that's what the GOP is doing, which again, I don't identify with the GOP, whatever, that they just whatever, right? But if it's true that they're pro-life and that they don't believe women should be harassed in the locker room by biological men, and that children should be able to defend themselves with guns in the schools or whatever, with teachers armed and security and lockdowns or whatever, if that message is true, I don't care who is turning away, especially you, Harry. Respectfully, if you're turned off by that, then hey, like, go vote for whoever you want to vote for, right? No one's forcing you to vote for anyone. But yeah, I think that's, like, again, he also kind of strawman there, like talking about how, like the GOP just hates Gen Z. Like, no, like we're trying to win over Gen Z with the truth. And eventually, again, people are going to grow up and they usually become more conservative, but that's because they mature, right? Especially men. Men really just grow up and they're just like, you know what? Like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to pay a lot of taxes. Okay, yeah, I mean, I want to, have good credit. And you know what? Yeah, I mean, values matter. So, yeah, that'll be it. I mean, someone pray for Harry, but I know he has a lot of wild stuff on TikTok. But yeah, that's been the show. Thank you guys for watching. God bless. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And be sure to hit that follow button on our RSBN channel on Rumble. And then hit that join button. It'll take you over to our locals channel where you can further support the show and get access to additional content. God bless.